left the donut shop, and on the way home on the bicycle, an individual suddenly jumped out behind a car and snatched her off the bicycle.
I was screaming, "Oh my God, why me? What's happening? And the next thing I said, shut up, I'll kill you right here now."
And I realized when I put her in the car that if this went like things had been going, this girl was in really bad trouble.
Our story today is about a 17-year-old girl who was kidnapped by a merciless serial killer. Unfortunately, she endured physical and psychological abuse, but thanks to her intelligence, she managed to convince her abductor to let her go without killing her. She didn't stop there. She also helped the police track down this criminal and save other girls on the verge of facing a similar or worse fate. Let's delve into the details of this story and learn how Lisa managed to uncover the criminal's location. Hello, friends. The events of our story begin with a teenage girl named Lisa, 17 years old. Lisa worked at a restaurant in the state of Florida. One day, as usual, she finished work late and took her bicycle to return to her grandmother's house where she was living. It was around 1 a.m. Lisa was riding her bike slowly, not in a rush to get home. The reason was that she wasn't comfortable living with her grandmother. Lisa was subjected to abuse by her grandmother's boyfriend, Maurice. His abuse wasn't limited to bullying and physical violence. It extended to much more dangerous acts. What made matters worse was that her grandmother was aware of Maurice's actions but did nothing to stop him. Lisa was living in a harsh and humiliating environment. While Lisa was riding her bike on her way back to her grandmother's house, she noticed a car parked on the side of the road. At first, she didn't think much of it, as parked cars on the roadside were a common sight. However, what she didn't know was that the driver of this car had been watching her for some time. Suddenly, as she was riding down the road, the man hit her with his car, causing her to fall to the ground. He quickly got out of the car, assaulted her, tied her up, and blindfolded her. He then threw her into the car, took her bicycle, placed it on the car's roof, and drove away. Lisa's situation was extremely dire. First, Lisa was a young girl, just 17 years old. However, she faced an incredibly harsh experience when she was kidnapped by a serial killer known for his brutality and lack of mercy. Despite what happened, she showed intelligence and courage rarely seen in such circumstances. Any girl in her place might have collapsed from fear or lost the ability to act, but Lisa was an exception. She quickly realized she needed to stay calm and think smartly to survive this situation. At first, Lisa sat quietly in the car, trying to gather herself and find a way out of this predicament. While on the road, she somehow managed to lift the blindfold the criminal had placed over her eyes without him noticing. When she lifted it, she started to observe the details around her: the shape of the seats, their color, the name of the car's manufacturer, and anything that could later serve as a clue. After a few minutes, the criminal arrived at his home and took her inside, where he committed the most horrific crimes against her. She stayed with him for about 26 hours, and throughout that time, Lisa behaved as if she were composed, despite the pain and suffering she was enduring. What set her apart was that she didn't break down. Instead, she intelligently analyzed the criminal's personality. By observing his behavior and speech, Lisa realized that the criminal was suffering from a mental disorder and was acting with the mindset of a small child. She exploited this weak side of his personality and started speaking to him gently, convincing him that she wanted to stay with him. She told him she wanted to be his secret girlfriend and asked to touch his face so she could always remember his features. Due to his naivety, he allowed her. Lisa's true goal was to memorize his features, not just to deceive him briefly. Later, Lisa asked for permission to go to the bathroom, and the criminal allowed her to do so. While in there, she deliberately left her fingerprints everywhere as evidence in case something happened to her. She carefully placed the blindfold back in place and exited as if nothing had happened, so the criminal wouldn't suspect anything. Later, she took a small hairpin without him noticing and dropped it under the bed as another clue of her presence in the place. After hours, the criminal, exhausted, fell asleep next to her. Lisa seized the opportunity, lifted her blindfold slightly, and took a quick look at the surroundings, memorizing every detail of the house as well as the criminal's features. When the criminal woke up, he seemed to have decided to dispose of Lisa. He tied her hands and blindfolded her as usual, then put her in the car, and took her to a remote area filled with trees. On the way, Lisa played another smart trick. She intentionally cut her finger and left a few drops of blood under the car seats as another piece of evidence. The criminal arrived at his destination and forced Lisa out of the car. He tied her up and made her sit under a large tree. Then he raised his weapon and aimed it at her head, determined to kill her. In those moments, Lisa began to break down, crying and begging the criminal not to kill her and to leave her alone, assuring him that she wouldn't report him. In the end, the criminal decided to let her go and walked away. Lisa, at first, couldn't believe what had happened, as she thought she wouldn't survive. But once she confirmed that he had left, she gently untied her hands and removed the blindfold from her eyes. Immediately, she took her bicycle and rode toward her grandmother's house. When she arrived, she told her grandmother and her boyfriend, Maurice, what had happened and said that she would go to report it to the police. The surprise came in the reactions of her grandmother and her boyfriend, as they refused to let her report it to the police. However, Lisa ignored their objections and decided to go to the police station on her own. When she arrived, the officer didn't take her report seriously, mocking her and downplaying the importance of what she had said. When Lisa started explaining how she had left evidence in various places like the bathroom, the officer ridiculed her words, thinking she might be seeking fame or stirring controversy, as he saw her as just a teenage girl. As Lisa was deeply saddened by the officer's disregard, Detective Larry Ben Cardin appeared. Larry was a member of the Homicide Investigation and Tracking Unit for Serial Killers, and he had been searching for this criminal for a long time. When he listened to Lisa's testimony, he realized that the details she provided perfectly matched what they had been looking for in the serial killer they were trying to capture. Detective Larry requested a thorough medical examination for Lisa, and the results confirmed the presence of red fibers on her clothes and other evidence supporting her story. This killer was known to have committed nearly 9 murders of women. Meanwhile, the detective began piecing together the case, and thanks to Lisa's intelligence, they were able to sketch the face of the killer using a forensic artist. Lisa also provided accurate details about the car the criminal was driving, including the interior color and other details she noticed while she was with him. Lisa also used her intelligence to identify the turns the kidnapper had taken during the kidnapping. With the detective's help, she began describing the places they had passed through. Eventually, the police started searching for a car with similar specifications, and they found one that matched the description. Through surveillance of the suspect from a distance without being noticed, they were able to take pictures of him, which they showed to Lisa. When Lisa saw the pictures, she confirmed that this was the criminal who had kidnapped and assaulted her. From there, the detective and his team decided to raid the criminal's house. He was arrested, and the evidence Lisa had mentioned, such as the hair left under the bed, fingerprints in the bathroom, and blood left in the car, along with other evidence, helped solve the case. Thus, the serial killer who had committed many crimes was captured, and one of the worst cases of murder and rape in the United States was solved. The killer, who had remained unknown until then, was named Bobby Joe Long, born in 1953 in Virginia. His upbringing was difficult, as he was born with a different chromosomal arrangement, XXY, which led to him suffering from a condition known as Klinefelter syndrome. This condition causes some feminine physical traits, such as breast development. It was the reason he was bullied at school, to the point that he had to undergo surgery to correct this issue. He was very attached to his mother and continued to sleep with her during his childhood. When he reached adolescence, this began to negatively impact her relationships, preventing her from marrying others so that she would remain with him. After graduating from high school, he married his classmate Sinisia in 1974, and they had 2 children. However, in 1980, Sinisia filed for divorce and custody of the children due to her husband's violent and dysfunctional behavior. After the divorce, Bobby moved to a high-crime area and began targeting his victims through classifieds. He would visit homes that had properties for sale, and if he discovered that the homeowner was a woman living alone, he would attack, rape, and then flee. He raped nearly 50 girls before changing his approach from rape to murder. He then turned to the prostitution area, where he began hunting victims among women working in this field, killing them in brutal ways, and leaving their bodies in strange locations. He varied his methods of murder, sometimes strangling the victim, other times slashing her neck. He also mistreated their bodies in cruel ways, revealing his sadistic tendencies. He continued his crimes for 8 months, until 1984 when the police were able to identify him with Lisa's help. Had Lisa not been so intelligent, this criminal would still be at large, continuing his crimes. Bobby was arrested and convicted of kidnapping and raping Lisa, receiving a 26-year prison sentence. For his other crimes, he was sentenced to death by lethal injection in 2019. After his arrest, Lisa was placed in a care center due to the abuse she had suffered from her grandmother's boyfriend, Maurice, who had been sexually harassing and abusing her. He was also arrested, tried, and imprisoned. Today, Lisa works in law enforcement and participates in organizations aimed at rescuing women who might face the same fate she did. A film has also been produced telling her story and showing how this smart girl saved many others from the serial killer. This is the story of Lisa, which had a significant impact on society. For those who want to hear this story on Spotify or dive deeper into the details, you can get the full ebook, which contains additional events and exclusive insights not covered in this video. You'll find all the links in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more gripping stories. Thank you for your support, and see you soon in a new tale.